What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the ADOM Facebook page for a Monday quick cast. Yes, another week here in ADOM Nation. And as we have been doing another great quick cast with an amazing company coming on and sharing some tips for you as you, the dental manager, are out there, as we know, on a weekly basis, doing everything that you can to better your practice, better everything that you possibly can. So very excited to be with you today. And we have a familiar, I'd say, face, Angela. I mean, we were just talking that we've done a couple ADOM radio episodes before. So for any of you out there that listen to ADOM radio, Angela has come on and has done some great episodes, always full of awesome content. And so today, we're going to focus on some different things in regards to your website. But Angela Burns, Director of Client Services from Roadside Dental Marketing. How you doing, Angela?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. My pleasure. All right. So you are going to share with everybody 7 tips to evaluate your website's effectiveness. And some of the things, guys, that Angela is going to go over, like we said, 7 quick areas to evaluate your own website from a patient perspective, learning how the user experience affects your website effectiveness, and then more importantly, like some of the improvements that you can make and the impact that they can have both on conversion as well as revenue and all of the good stuff. So Angela, I think what we're going to do is you've got some slides to share. You're going to identify those 7 tips. We're going to come back and forth and kind of have some Q&A between each one, but I know you want to touch on those. I guess the very first thing that I would ask as we get into this is that if you're an office manager, you're sitting down having a cup of coffee and you're like, you know what, I got a little bit of time, which is odd, but I'm going to look over my website and I want to try to identify maybe some things that I need to change or what have you, or I don't know if it's helping us as much as we possibly can. That's maybe a good place for us to start. So love to have you get started there.
Perfect. Thanks. Yeah, I think the first thing is if you're just taking just a couple of minutes and you're not necessarily digging into all 7 steps at the moment, just your first chance that you're looking at your website, what does it speak to you? If it was the first time you were ever seeing your practice based on that online presence, do you know the message that it's giving? Does it give you a good feeling? Does it tell you what to do next? Do you know what they're asking of you? Are they trying to get you to book an appointment or go to a certain page? Really, what is it saying to you as the end user? Because that's what these new patients are seeing the first time they ever see your practice online. So we're going to kind of dig into some specifics of how to do that. But really, that's if you have 5 minutes between patients and you're just clicking on your own website, think if I didn't know anything about us, what's it doing for me? What's it saying to me?
Yeah, I love that. All right. So do you want to get into the first step of this, these 7 steps you're going to go over?
Perfect. Yeah. I think the very first step is first impression. So this is, now I'm going to be using some of our actual clients' examples as we walk through some of these. Obviously, every website is different. Every practice personality is different. So I just grabbed a few of my personal favorites, but evaluate it from your practice's personality. But really, what does the website say? What is the first impression? Would a patient choose you based on the online imagery that they're seeing? Like this one, you can kind of see the doctor's personality. Obviously, it's orthodontic, lots of time with kids, but it gives a warm and comforting feel and makes people feel like the practice is kind of cool. He's interacting with patients. So that would be really the first thing is just, does it look stock? Is it inviting? What is your first impression? And then that's really one of the most important. But then going into some of the more technical pieces, I'm going to just go into the next slide, which is, what do you want them to do? How easy is it for them to take action that you want them to take? Do you have, like this one has a chat feature. Do you have a way for them to communicate? We know everyone's busy these days, and busy, especially, busy patients, they may be a few seconds while they're in their car or they're on their phone. They don't feel like picking up the phone maybe right there. Maybe they want to just send a quick message. How easy is it for them to communicate with your practice based on 2020, going into 2021's mode of communication? How easy is it for them to book an appointment? Is it a quick form? Does it tell them right away what you want from them? We'd love to have you join our practice. book here. This one sounds so simple, but how easy is it for them to find your number? You would not believe how often I do website evaluations for practices, and to call them to tell them that their evaluation is ready, I'm searching their website to find their phone number. No bueno. Nobody wants to have to look and search to know how to contact you. It should be very visible. And that sounds like such a basic thing, but no, it really isn't. That's one of the things we have to fix all the time, is make that next step, that buyer's journey, very obvious, make the way to contact you in the forefront of the website. Super important.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you touched on two very important points there. The first is it's in the world that we live in now, where one could argue that the attention span has shrunk. You have to get somebody's attention span quickly, right? And they have to feel that. I think that's the most important thing that I thought was great. And then certainly you touched on, okay, now why am I here? What is it that I need to do? And I know you're probably going to get into this, but as you know, Angela, so often in a dental practice, patients are searching online, they're searching Google, they're searching at the website because that's what they want to do. They're not always there, as you know, to kind of browse around a shop. They really do want to go see somebody. So like you said, being able to know how they can take action fast matters.
Right. And that goes into the next two sections, kind of point number 3 and point number 4, which I'm going to go into in a second, but it's the buyer's journey. And what does that mean? And then also your unique value to the end user. So regardless of what field we're in, even healthcare, we have buyers. They are coming to our office to purchase a product. It's a service, but they are a consumer. And we do need, in some ways, to message our website around that buyer's journey, knowing that our ultimate goal is for them to spend money in our practice. Come and see us, walk in the door. So what does that buyer's journey look like? Is it obvious what you want from them? This particular practice loves doing virtual consultations. He's an office that has a lot of success with it. He's perfected it. It's great. He even really advertises the virtual consults, which is convenient. That's a great buyer's journey, to have that front and center on the website, that's the action they want them to take, is book a virtual appointment. This also works really well with some specialty practices, is book an appointment. But even beyond that, the buyer's journey, the messaging, what pages do you want them to be going to? What services do you want them to be aware of? All of that is part of that buyer's journey, or that kind of navigation through your own online presence, to make sure that you're sharing with them the information that's the most important to your practice, and ultimately that's going to bring in the best bottom line for your practice. If you have services that you know are really your bread and butter services, but they're also the ones that you have the highest profit margin on, you really want to see more patients, your doctor loves doing that all day long, they're passionate about that service, is that front and center? Is that foremost on the website so that patients know that you offer it, the doctor loves it? Why do they love it? All of those things are part of that journey to get them to understand why you do what you do. And the next thing that goes simultaneously with that is, we call it your UVP, or your unique value proposition. But really it comes down to, why are you different? How are you different than the 25 dentists in a 3-block radius, depending on your city? How are you going to stand out? This is another slide I have here of this practice they're fun. They're lighthearted. They're a little silly. They're willing to bring out their Dentaphones and their little, smiles on a stick and pose for a photo. But it does show the warmth of their practice. It shows that they have personality. They have their own unique culture. Now, this may not be for every practice, but are you showing what your culture is? Are you demonstrating quickly to the end user, which is the patient, we have something that makes us stand apart. We have something that's a little bit different. And this is why you would choose us over someone else in the vicinity. Maybe sometimes that uniqueness is financial. Sometimes it's convenience. It's the times that you have appointments available. Maybe you're open later than your competition. Maybe you start earlier than your competition. Maybe your practice goes out of the way to see an emergency right away, immediately, and treat them. There's lots of different things that differentiate your practice from everyone else. And do they have to be a patient to know those features? Do they have to actually call you to know? Or did you make it very visible online, and do you regularly communicate that with them so that they know you're the one for me, you're the right practice, or you're the one for me and my friend who's also looking for a dentist? Those things are really important.
Angela, can you briefly, every time I see the websites that you guys do, they're so nicely done. And like you mentioned, there's no question that when you work with people, you guys are having these conversations with them. But I thought it would be beneficial, as we're talking about this, that when people see what they just saw and what you talked about, them understanding that there's a little bit of work that goes behind that, right? Because as you know better than anybody, it's one thing to put everything that you do up on a website, thinking that not knowing what people are going to want, right? Well, let's just put it all up there because you're not what they're going to want. And then there's the work that you have to do to get to the point that you just talked about, which is like identifying those one or two things. Doesn't mean that they won't utilize the other services, but if you could just maybe touch on the importance of some of that work before you even get to what you just showed on the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, actually, John, we just have a magic wand and we just flick it in the air and the websites are perfect for the practice. That's how Roadside works.
Of course.
Yeah. No, there actually is quite a bit of process involved in simplifying it down to what is the most important. You can do information overload. You can kind of do information, puking on your site, right, that everyone is just like their eyes glaze over and they don't care about what's happening and you've lost them. So there is a very fine line between digging into what's the most important to the practice. How are we going to make them stand out? How are we going to differentiate them from the competition? And how are we going to do this without so much to read that we've lost them? Because like you mentioned a few minutes ago, we all have ADHD. Nobody is going to read paragraphs and paragraphs of text. Mm-hmm. We need to have it illustrated. We need to have visuals. We need to have something that keeps our attention or keeps our eyes moving down the page, whatever it is. It needs to be done in a way that people care about continuing to look, because otherwise they just go, yep, another dentist, and they move on. Yeah. So there is a strategy behind the balancing act between illustrating who you are and what you do well, and not having so much information that their head explodes and they don't care anymore. And that unfortunately happens sometimes. Practices get really excited about all the services they offer, and they throw them out there so busy on the site that you can't decide which one's interesting, which one's the most important. So there is definitely a balancing act.
Absolutely. All right. So next tips.
So the next one is, especially I think practices overall, I think have gotten a little bit better about this during, well, not all of them. A lot of practices have gotten better at this during our downtime, and that's being social. So really, my question is your social actually social? Are you making it real? Are you talking about your practice? Again, going back to how you're going to differentiate yourself, are you putting something out socially that people care about? How are you going to remind your community that you're a practice that they want to engage with? You have an actual personality. You're have something different about your practice. This is a couple of videos that a few of our practices did that we're very proud of them. They used their good old iPhone. That was all they had to do for these videos. And they just walked through a few of the protocols or a few of the procedures that they had going. And these all happened, all these videos were during the since COVID. One of them here is on emergency dentistry and virtual consults. Another one was on some great new technology that he purchased to keep the practice safe, keep the patient safe. And the last one is on the COVID protocols. So all of these were things that the practices implemented themselves. They didn't need to bring in an expensive videographer. They didn't need to make it complicated. They just simply talked to their audience and put it out on social and engaged. And that's so important, is just make social something crazy like social, like be real And it makes such a big difference in connecting the community, especially when everyone is a little bit disconnected right now. People are not as out in the community like they used to be. So often they're scrolling their Facebook feeds or their YouTube more than they were before because they're stuck at home. So make yours engaging enough that it's not just stock boring imagery. Make it something that they're actually like, oh, cool, look what my dentist just did.
Right.
Just be real.
Yeah, we're hearing that message so much more, and like you mentioned, there's the element of keeping it simple, but keeping it authentic, and like you said, people more and more are zoning in, right? We're learning how, as crazy as it sounds, like I think about some of these Zoom calls we've been on with ADOM during this fall semester, and it's like even though everybody is apart from each other, there's true emotion, that people are feeling, that like you talked about, that you can instill that emotion by putting like a great story or some video or what have you on the website. All that stuff matters. So I love that. Yeah,
absolutely. And then along with that, this is kind of the next is along with being social, and people don't necessarily always think of this as social. Oh, I didn't have that slide. Just kidding. But it's reviews. When people are writing a review, are you taking a minute to say thank you? Are you saying, thanks for your feedback. I appreciate hearing from you. We love that appreciation, whatever it is. Are you engaging with people on the reviews they're writing? That is also really important. It makes them feel good. Someone took a few minutes and they wrote you a great Google review. And when they get a little notice that you said thank you, it makes them go, oh, they noticed. It doesn't take that long, but it's part of engaging with your community and being real and authentic with your audience. And it is also important to remember that part of setting yourself apart is getting online feedback. It does matter. People do look at feedback in this day and age. They're always going to check you out and see what kind of reviews, what kind of feedback you have. Now, are they going to believe every single review that's out there? No, people recognize that there's always the occasional grouchy person in the world. Right. So do not freak out if you have one bad review. If the majority of them are raving fans and they're talking about how authentic you are and what a good practice you are, an occasional review is not worth not asking for them. So get the reviews.
Yeah, it's also interesting too, because I think that one of the things you touched on earlier was how does this all tie to revenue, right? We were kind of touching on that, and it's just all these little things. They all add up, right? Hearing you go through this, the putting a little video on there, creating something on the site that makes it more real, more authentic. The review, every little piece, just becomes this engine, right? Because as you know, Angela, when it comes to a site, we all know this. You never know what time of the day people are looking at it. They're
right.
At noon or 6 p.m. or 2 a.m. And all that stuff is interesting. It's like it's as if you could obviously advertise yourself 24 hours a day, and then make sure that you have all those things on there.
Right. Then the last tip that we have is a little more technical of nature, but it's use the tools that are available to see how your website's performing technically. You may look at it and think visually it's okay. It's probably doing its job, but is it? There's free tools out there that any person that knows how to copy and paste a URL can do their own website check. They can check on things like here's just a few of the stats, your time on site and pages per session. So what is that telling you? Well, it's telling you, do they like my site enough that they stay on it? And are they jumping around and looking at more than just one page, or are they just clicking back off? So those are easy analysis that you can do yourself to give yourself a little more insight to, is it working for me? Here is, and I think they're going to put this in the chat, but here's a couple of free tools that you can grab and put your own URL in and check out some reports on how your website is performing. So it's available to everyone. They can go on and look at it themselves, see how things are going.
Perfect. So in the spirit of reviews, like you were just talking about, I thought it was important to share with you some of the live reviews that you are getting right now, right? Like, hello, happy to be here. Hey, ADOM and the awesome Angela with Roadside. Hi, Angela. Yes, I need these tips. It's going to be awesome. So helpful to have this insight. Love that the practice can respond via texting. That's what I want as a patient. So convenient. So cool. Virtual consultants are so now. Be authentic. love this, right? I mean, it's, Anom Nation, chiming in and sharing with you. Responding to reviews is so important. Love seeing when a company takes the time to reply. A lot of basic stuff. So, it is. It's fun to look at the fact that, people don't have to put this in the comment section. And I think the fact that they do, to your point, does matter. It all adds up. It all makes a difference. So,
yeah. And we have a free website analysis that we offer. Absolutely no obligation. If anyone wants a little more deep dive of their own website, if they want to see the technical end, as well as the user experience end. Yep. So we are happy to provide you with a technical audit, and we're also happy to provide you with kind of a marketing audit. You have to promise me you don't get your feelings hurt if I say this isn't working. I'll be really transparent and say, hey, this part's awesome. Ooh, this is not good. So it's just informational, and you guys can take it and do with it whatever you want. You can make whatever adjustments that are needed, either technically or to the user experience of your site. But it is something that we give back. We give back to the ADOM community, and all the time we help them out by doing these website analysis. So just reach out if that's something that would help you in your practice.
Perfect. And I think we've got up on the screen right now all of your information. Hopefully by now, you all know how to get in touch with Roadside Dental Marketing. If you want to know a little bit about their work, just go to the ADOM site, dentalmanagers.com, and you'll get a glimpse of the great work that they do. Angela, this is always a pleasure. Super informative, great to the point tips. Certainly some things that the practices, I'm sure, can start doing tomorrow. So thank you for your time. Any last words, anything else before we wrap?
No, just thank you again. Love working with you. Thank you for inviting us. And if anyone needs our assistance or they want to get some feedback on how they can make their 24/7 marketing machine a little more effective, just reach out. We're happy to help.
Awesome. Thanks, Angela. See you soon. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, John.